I'm going to do a little bit of sawing here today. I need a break from looking at the forest. I'm going to focus on this. We've got a few red pine logs here. Some of them actually aren't supposed to be up here. I'll pull them out of here. But we're going to get them up on the sawmill. This is my Clarke model 350-38. This thing's brand new to me. I don't know how many hours it has, but it certainly doesn't have many on it. We're going to get it up here on the sawmill. We're going to make some logs into some cants, and then we're going to pile them up here. Now, the reason I'm making it into cants right now is I'm just trying to process the logs as fast as possible. I have a huge time crunch coming. One of the reasons I'm looking at hiring people to help clean up the forest is these logs will rot. It doesn't take long. Once that warm weather hits, you really only have a few weeks, and then the red pine trees, they'll start to get boring insects in it, and then the boring insects are the beginning of the end, and then they'll eventually rot. And so I need to get things processed quickly, get the logs over here as fast as possible, and get them sawn so the bark's off them. And so I'm just going to make them into cants today, and that way we can open up space for more logs to come up onto the sawmill. So on that point here, a few people have asked me about having this also like up in this location, and I think that would be fine. You know, if you're standing here, obviously you would see this side of the log better, but what you wouldn't see better is the other side of the log. And that's why I really like it back there, because I can see both sides of the log really easily. So what I'm getting at, I'm standing here. Obviously the saw head would be further up when I'm starting the cut. And so I have a little window sort of right in this direction. And if you look down there, you can see the log stops. And if you look over there, you can see the log clamps. Well, imagine the logs in between those. I can easily see that side of the log where the log stops are. And then if I duck my head around this way and I really want to see the log clamps, I can easily do that. And all I'm doing is moving from here to here. So I'm moving just a little bit, just leaning. And really, the only reason I lean out here is because I'm new to the sawmill and I'm making absolute sure that I don't hit the blade off the log clamps. Another question I had over the last little while was about dust, and people were wondering about dust sort of getting all over the place. Well, here's a look at the amount of dust that comes on the sawmill. Now, I don't know how many logs I did there, but I don't know how many's there, 8 or 9. But this is the sawdust, and so I wouldn't say this is out of control by any means. There's certainly not a lot of space down here for things to get hung up. You get a little bit here on the diesel tank, but it's certainly nothing out of the ordinary, I would think. Looking in there, you have that big exit hole on the drive side band wheel. And so most of the dust, assuming it goes in there, is going to go out that exit hole. If it doesn't, it's just going to fall down along the edge. And one of the reasons you may end up having more dust appearing to fall all over that side with this type of sawmill is because the log is on this side, as opposed to on a lot of other sawmills where it's against that drive side band wheel. Over the last while, people have asked me as well about dust buildup and whether I'm getting a lot of dust buildup because the log sits on this side of the sawmill, as opposed to a lot of other manufacturers where the log's sitting on that side. I don't notice anything out of the ordinary. All sawmills I've ever seen are dusty. In my case, it's not like there's a ton of stuff in here to hold the dust up. And so any dust that does come in here probably just falls to the ground. And then I'll come through with the leaf blower and then clean it out. But I don't notice any abundance of dust on that side any more than normal. I'm sure there might be a little bit, especially with small logs. Keeping in mind the logs over here, the dust would have to travel across that open area in order to get through that exit hole. But if it doesn't make it there, it just falls. Typically it falls in a void. Nothing's in there anyway, so I don't notice any difference. For those of you who wanted to see the debarker in action, so I had it going a minute ago. I actually have 2 levers for it. So there's to move the debarker in and out, and this one turns it on. And so I had it in and on for a few logs. I forgot with another few as well. But one thing I like about it is it creates a very shallow cut. Because of this steel shoe, it's almost like a guide here. So it goes in right up against the log, and that prevents it from digging in too far, giving me that nice cut. And you can see there's the thickness, and those are those replaceable carbide teeth on there if I ever need to. You probably saw what I saw, but when I'm turning logs with that log turner, look out. That thing has so much torque that I'm just flicking the lever up at the controls, and it's causing that log to do a full rotation. If I hold down that lever, I swear that log would just go like this, and I'd debark the thing with the log turner itself. It's quite the unit. These are working quite well as well. You would have seen a few times where I dropped them all the way down. Once it's all the way down, this no longer touches the wood. It's actually this edge. So maybe what we should do after I've done a bit of cutting, let's just look inside of the band wheel and we'll see how things are working out. One of the things I really like is that. It's a magnet. There we go. So, a little bit of dust, but certainly that would come out in a hurry. And so there's the exit hole. And one thing I'm noticing with the diesel lubricant, the blade stays perfectly clean, as does the band wheel. So, I think that's going to do it for me here today. I think I have lots of work ahead of me. I need to get back at it, whether that's going back to the telephone to make the arrangements to get the help for the cleanup, or doing it myself. I got to get that underway right quickly. Believe it or not, I could probably work out here for a year, and if I wasn't working in this immediate area, no one would ever know that I'm actually plugging away at it. It is such an immense job, but we will get there one day. I have full confidence that things will work out as long as you keep that positive attitude up. Tomorrow's another day, skies will be brighter another day, and well, we'll get it done another day. That's going to be it for me here today. Thanks again for watching. As always, send that warm weather to me. I need to melt this snow, but hold the black flies, and I'll see you next time.